There's a famous Yiddish saying that goes something like, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose, which means the more things change, the more they stay the same. Although sometimes really the more things change, and how different they become. And I think if I look back on the last 2 years since I've had the honour of being in this role, I think that the hallmark of those 2 years has been change. Clearly, on a very global scale, we've seen COVID and we've seen the changes that has wrought upon the world, on the way we work, on the way we live, on the way we think about being sick. And certainly that change, that massive pandemic, has impacted both on our activities and our operations. In some cases, we've had to forego some activities. In other cases, we've had to adapt activities. And in some cases, we've just been, frankly, bloody lucky that we had Yom Ha'atzmaut during one of this state's very, very rare snap openings that occurred over the last year or two. But we cannot discount the impact that COVID has had on every facet of our operation. The federal election in May this year also created a change of government for the country, a change of direction for the country, some shifts on areas of policy that are of interest to us, like the Middle East as well, that we will need to monitor, and that we will work collaboratively with the federal government to discuss and follow as well. But there is change there. There was change in Israel very recently, finally, a definitive change in an electoral sense, when the electorate voted last month. Was it last month or earlier this month? I don't remember. Which one? This month, earlier this month. Voted, unambiguously, the electorate decided that Bibi Netanyahu would be the next Prime Minister of Israel, and that we follow, and as the Prime Minister-elect negotiates to construct his cabinet and his coalition, we will follow those developments very closely and look forward to, firstly, a period of what we anticipate to be stability, given the relatively large size of the majority that Netanyahu and his colleagues enjoys, but we will also follow quite carefully as the government moves on to run the country and hopefully work towards peace with, beyond the Emirates and Morocco and Bahrain and Sudan, but with other neighbours as well, to look forward to those developments. We have an election coming up in Victoria within the next week, 5 days or what have you. And that could also create change. Well, it certainly will create change one way or another, whether the government is returned or whether the government or whether the opposition is elected. There'll be a different nature to what happens there. We wish all the candidates well. And David, thank you for joining us here this evening. We wish you well as well. There's also, unfortunately, been changes, and not good changes, not welcome changes, in the ferocity of anti-Zionist and anti-Semitic rhetoric that we've seen specifically on campus, specifically coming from the left to sadly complement the anti-Semitism that we know comes from the right as well. And in that sense, firstly, whether it comes from the left or from the right, to paraphrase another saying, if it looks like a duck and sounds like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's an anti-Semitic duck. And whether from the right or from the left, we call it out all the same. And the University of Melbourne Student Union decision earlier this year was the worst example of this, in my view. It was scandalous, it was belligerent, it was anti-Semitic, and it was just wrong. And we worked very hard with other organisations within the community and with the government to do what we could to thwart this. But I must say that 90% of the work, 95% of the work was done by our lion-hearted students at Augers, the Australasian University students, who literally, who literally were there on the front lines and were copying this in a very intense and very awful way. And the ramifications, we know, are still being felt on campus. I think that their leadership was exemplary, their strength, their conviction was gave us a leaf from a book that we could all follow, and I'd like to pay my tribute to them as well for their actions. What happened at Melbourne University and elsewhere has underscored the importance of the IRA definition, working definition of anti-Semitism to us as a community. We, as the Zionist movement, stand very strong in support of this working definition. We're pleased that that David and his leader Matthew Guy, on a sort of state sense, came to our assembly this time last year, about a year ago. I don't remember the exact date, but a year ago today, David and Matthew Guy came and said that a future Liberal government would support the IRA working definition of anti-Semitism. And then earlier this year, the Premier committed the Victorian government to doing the same. And we're very grateful for that bipartisan support, which so often characterises the support for the Jewish community and for Israel as well. And we hope that the IRA definition continues to be adopted, and I can think of no better response to what we saw at Melbourne University, the Melbourne University itself adopting the IRA definition. I can think of no better response than Monash University itself adopting the IRA definition, and other universities and institutions as well. We've also been very active on a local level. You'll remember as our Executive Director very playfully referred to it as the Glen IRA debate earlier in the year when the Glen IRA Council voted on the IRA definition. We were very, very active in making sure that the Council was left in no uncertainty as to the community's support for this. Within 3 days, one of which was Chag, a Jewish holiday, the other was a public holiday, we collected 2,500 signatures on a petition and presented it to the Council at their meeting that night. And I'm pleased to report that all but one councillor, who probably should have done better, all but one councillor supported the adoption of the IRA definition. All but one councillor thought that it was important. All but one agreed that the Jewish community deserved this support. The majority of councillors didn't argue. The majority of councillors didn't argue that there was no anti-Semitism in Glen IRA, which was fanciful. The majority of councillors did not argue that the Glen IRA Council did not have a role in deliberating on anti-Semitism. I ask you, if the council that leads Australia's largest Jewish community doesn't have a role in talking about anti-Semitism, then who does? But we're grateful to the all but one councillors who supported this, and we will recall their contribution. In particular, we're grateful to the Mayor Jim McGee, and we're particularly grateful to Margaret Esikoff, Simone Smood and Sam Parasol for their leadership within Council on this. We've also had change within Zionism Victoria, significant change. Firstly, at a leadership level, a professional leadership level, we bade farewell to our long-serving Executive Director, Jean Katzen, and welcomed Zeddy Lawrence into the role in April this year? About April this year. Jean, for over 5 years, was an exemplary leader for Zionism Victoria. She demonstrated commitment, excellent relationship management and perfect execution for everything under her control. Our loss is certainly BYA's gain, so well done, Jeff. I'm not snagging her. But Zeddy as well has come into the role with it, and you know, not to overuse a cliche, but hit the ground running. He's inspiring. He has an enthusiasm about a task that is unparalleled. He is exceptionally professional and has led the team really well, has generated good ideas, and is certainly the leader that we know will be taking us forward into the future. So welcome, Zeddy. And to the extent that we've been able to, we've also seen change in the activities of Zionism Victoria. We've been much more active in the media, in social media and amongst politics, as hopefully you'll appreciate. But there is more to do, and we look forward to working with our partners in government, in the media, across the community, in talking about the Jewish community's relationship with Israel. We have adopted new programming styles and worked on new initiatives, such as the Hebrew English play, Sabra, such as a talk by Eve Barlow, such as our forum with 4 local MPs after the federal election, and indeed the forum a few weeks ago with with David and other candidates for Caulfield for the state election as well. And even to mark the 125th anniversary of the World Zionist Congress, we feel that the stronger we can make these activities relate and engage with the community, then the stronger the community will be. And of course, I haven't mentioned our efforts for Yom Ha'atzmaut. We're now for 2 years running, and again, as I said, especially last year, we were really lucky that we got it in a COVID opening. But each year, across all our activities, whether it's the family festival at the racecourse, or the Israel Shabbat, or the concert that we do, or the myriad other activities that we do, we've probably averaged about 10,000 people, being 10,000 people across all our events every year. That is an astonishing achievement, and if I can Skype for a moment, I'm not sure there's any other organisation in this community that is getting numbers like that consistently to their activities. And why I'm particularly proud of that, I'm particularly proud of the work of the team, which I'll go into in a moment, but I'm particularly proud because the reason that I do this job is quite simple. I do this job because I believe that as a community, as a Jewish community, the stronger our link to Israel, the stronger we are as a community. It's that simple. It's that simple for me. That's what Zionism is all about, notwithstanding what Charlotte Korczak wanted to say here a couple of weeks ago. But for me, it's that simple. And if we can bring 10,000 people, and hopefully next year as we celebrate the 75th anniversary, more, to experience that connection, if I can bring people like Viv and parliamentarians who can understand and see with their own eyes the importance of the Jewish community's connection with Israel, then we've done a good job. Then we can go home and say, we've done well today. And in terms of next year, we're looking forward to an astonishing round of events that will, details of which we will be announcing in the coming months. There, in addition to our regular events, which we're planning, there will be some additional events, some that will capture the imagination of both the community and the country, we hope, as we look to aim big and celebrate with everyone the 75th anniversary. And on that basis as well, I'm also pleased to announce that the Gandel Foundation has last week agreed to be our major philanthropic partner for Yom Ha'atzmaut 75. So we're very grateful for their support, and we're looking forward to announcements soon about our major community partner and our major corporate partner as well. Going forward, there's also change at board level. We have tonight at this AGM we sadly but fondly and gratefully say farewell to four long-standing board members, three of whom are here with us today, and one couldn't be here. The one who couldn't be here is Jeff Morrison, and Jeff Morrison has been an outstanding contributor to the Zionist movement over the years. When I, more than 20 years ago, maybe almost 25 years ago, was actually an employee of this organisation, Jeff was the treasurer, and Jeff then, probably younger then than I am today. But Jeff then was, his leadership was exemplary, his financial management was superb, and his contribution was unquestioned. And that's been his hallmark in the 20 plus years since then as well. So we're really grateful to Jeff for his contribution. We will also thank them all with some gifts in a moment with Lexi. Ian Samuel, who is here with us today, is frankly, without being too cliched, if we looked up stalwart in the community, in the dictionary, would see a picture of you, Ian. Your contribution across the community over, I'm told, 40 odd years. I won't presume to divulge your age, but I'm told of over 40 years has been outstanding. And one of the things that I've just always admired, Ian, about the way that you've gone about this is the way that you've been able to work with all facets of the community. Ian, no secret, is a proud member of the Reform community, but I've seen him work hand in glove with members of the Orthodox community, with members of the community who aren't religious at all, with members of the community who aren't even Zionists. I wouldn't even thought there were people like that. But Ian has worked hard and well with all of those, and Ian, your departure is our loss, and we bid you all the best and good luck, and we're also sad to see you go as well. Our Treasurer, Greg Blaschke, is also stepping down after a relatively short time with us, only 3 years. But after probably also close to 30, 40 years service to many, many different organisations in the community as well, I have to say that Greg was very deservedly honoured earlier this year in the Australia Day Honours with an OAM, which was very, very well deserved. Possibly one letter too many, maybe at least an AM, which should have been more appropriate, Greg, for your efforts, but certainly well done on that. He's had many years working as treasurer across many, many organisations and shepherded them and stewarded them all very, very well. And because he is a mensch, and this is a hallmark of the mensch that he is, Greg only made the decision to step down a few weeks ago, and we have been talking to a number of people about filling the role. We haven't quite agreed on someone to step into his shoes, but Jeff, being the mensch that he is, has agreed to continue working with us, even though he steps down tonight, to continue working with us until that transition is complete, which is a great testament, Greg, to your character and your contribution. Finally, John Searle, our Vice President, is also departing after, I didn't ask for a count of how many years service you provided, John, but I suspect it's more than 5. John is no stranger to the community at all. Years of service, obviously, also as president of the JCCB, but involved in the Community Security Group. The founder, the Landry founder, the actual founder of the Blake Street Hebrew Congregation, that I was very pleased to be a member of for quite a few years, which is probably the best shul in Melbourne, if you ask me. But John's imprimatur is across many places in the organisation. And recently, this year, he was also, and I forget the name, but he was also appointed to the Federal Government's Multicultural Advisory Council, which is also a credit to John's reputation and his efficiency in the broader community. I'll share one anecdote about John, because it's relevant. I haven't even had a chance to tell you about John. But a couple of weeks ago, I had the opportunity to sit down and have dinner with the Premier, and there were many things that were being discussed, and someone else from the community talked about some work that John had done. And I have to tell you, the Premier's eyes literally lit up, right? He said, John Searle is an outstanding member of the community, an outstanding Victorian. He paid tribute to your children, John, and said that your children were, the best reflection of a person was looking at their children and paid tribute to your family. And if the Premier of the state says it about John, then who am I to argue? So thank you. So to all 4 of you, Lexi, who will be, should you all agree, will be one of our incoming vice presidents for the next 2 years, will shortly provide a more formal gift to say thank you for your time. But let me just say on behalf of Zionism Victoria, on behalf of the Zionist movement nationally, and on behalf of the Jewish community, thank you. Thank you. Service that you've given is exemplary. These aren't board members who have come on for a couple of years and then gone off and done their own things. These are people whose lifetime calling has been community service, and we are all better for it. So thank you. It's also about 100 years of service that is sitting there amongst these 3, with Jeff as well. So it's quite the achievement. In terms of going forward, I know that what I'm pleased to say is that although we've had a number of departures, that everyone else on the board has cheerfully and excitedly decided to stay on, and we're also joined by another board member who will be recommending to you tonight, Baron Katransky, who can't be here because he's got COVID concerns and we want to spread it to everyone. But I know that having spoken to everyone, for a lot over the past 2 years, but certainly the last week or so, I think there's a sense of excitement, there's a sense of optimism about our celebrations for Yom Ha'atzmaut next year, which I think will be stupendous. And there's a sense of, now that we've gotten past COVID, and now that we've sort of been able to shepherd the organisation past the challenges that we've faced, and we can look forward to some blue sky, there is a sense of engagement, a sense of renewed partnership with some old friends, and a sense of promise as to what we can achieve and how we can actualise that vision that I spoke about beforehand, about bringing the community closer to Israel and Israel closer to the community. so we can strengthen both communities, so we can strengthen our community and the Victorian community more broadly as well. As you know, the Premier also mentioned on that dinner that I went to the other night, you know, a strong Jewish community means a strong Victoria, and I think that that's right as well. I'd like to just express my appreciation of a few communal partners who I just want to note as well amongst our affiliates. Amongst our affiliates, Brian Swirsky from Maccabi, Natalie Gunn and Tully Borowick from August, John Furstenberg from Merkaz Masalati, and Jerry Buller from St Kilda Shul have all stepped down for their roles as president, and I thank them for their service and acknowledge their contribution. In terms of our community partners, we work with many. We obviously have 56 affiliates and many other organisations that we work with. But in terms of the organisations we work most closely within our community, firstly, I can't not mention the Multicultural Commission. Sorry, we've not caught you as you're just taking a sip of water. But you know, your support for our work, your preparedness to be engaged in all our projects, and the financial support that we receive from the Commission has all been very welcome, and I think it's a testament to multiculturalism in Victoria basically, and we're really proud to be able to make a contribution to that. For the Jewish Community Council, we work very closely with the JCCB. We take our roles, I think we both take our roles as the respective roof bodies of the community very seriously. And I think that in Daniel, there is a leader there that is well able to represent the community and the portfolios for which the JCCB is responsible, and their professional leadership, Judy and her team work exceptionally well with our team in the office as well. So we'd like to thank them for their strength. I'd like to also acknowledge the strength of the United Israel Appeal, and who are really not just our major partner because, you know, they support us and we sign an agreement periodically, but they're a major partner because we really are in the same boat together with the Zionist Federation. We are the official arms of the Zionist movement. There are plenty of organisations who operate in the Zionist space, and we're really pleased to have everyone in the tent. But in terms of being part of that World Zionist Organisation framework, in terms of being able to work most closely with officials in Israel to be most easily bring Israel to Australia and Australia to Israel without partners like the UAA, Jeff as their CEO, we just wouldn't be able to do half the things that we do. And I'd also like to especially pay tribute to Haley Southwick, who's the outgoing president. And I'll just tell once, it's a shame Haley couldn't be here with us tonight, but Jeff, I hope you'd relay this, because one of the most, well, David might see him before Jeff. But one of the things that most impressed me about Haley, and she is an exceptionally impressive woman, last year when we ran the rally for Israel during the conflict with Gaza, and I rang around trying to get community support, I rang Haley, and I said, Haley, we're doing this, would you like to be involved? And without a moment's hesitation, without a microsecond to pause, Haley said, of course we're in. And then gave 120% for the week or two that we had to plan it, without resiling. And this wasn't about the UAA, this was about something that Haley knew to be right. And she just fought and fought and fought and worked with us so we could get the best outcome that we could possibly have. And for me, you know, that's something that, I mean, I think Haley's done exceptionally well with a lot of things, but David did let her know that's something that I will never forget. It was just that unqualified support that just spoke of a true love for the community and a true love for Israel. And finally, in terms of community partners, I'd also like to acknowledge the role of the Zionist Federation and Jeremy as its president, its office bearers, Miriam and Jeanette as the professional leaders in the team. Clearly we are one organisation. It's almost an anachronism to have a national body and state bodies and state bodies now, considering the global world we live in, and we're still worried about, you know, the railway gauges here between Victoria and New South Wales. But whatever the concept, we work exceptionally closely with the Zionist Federation, and Jeremy and the team, they are exceptional leaders for our community. Exceptional leaders for our community. I've seen firsthand how everyone, politicians, business leaders, other community entities engage with the Zionist Federation, with Jeremy, and we are well served by your leadership, so thank you. I would also like to just acknowledge the other board members that I haven't yet mentioned, so no one comes and brings me up afterwards and says, hey. But Shireen Hamber, David Opat, Dan Strake, who couldn't be here with us this evening because of an emergency situation, David Michelson, Simon Rubenstein, Attila Lifshutz, Lexi Koval, Sam Tataka, Jeremy is an ex officio member, and of course, not on the board but working very closely with us, the Lamb family, Rolene and Danny, the operators, if you like, of the Lamb Library of Australia, and the considerable work that they do. Thank you for your leadership, thank you for your contribution. And finally, well, penultimately, to our staff, to our Zionism Victoria staff, to Zeddy, to Charlene, to Jody, to Sandra, to Rena, to Cynthia, and to Danielle, who left us earlier in the year, to Millet, to Belinda and Joel, who manage this building, and to Nathaniel and Sonia, who work in the library. Thank you. It's easy to get up here and make speeches. It's easy to get up and get grumpy and say, this shouldn't be the way it should be, and can we change this and make this blue instead of white, or whatever. But it's much harder to be the staff, and the success of our events and the success of our community engagement rests entirely on the staff shoulders. So thank you very much to Zeddy and to the team, and thank you. And lastly, I'm really torn, but I'd like to acknowledge the strength that my family have given me, my three boys, Jonah, Jude, Reuben, our dog Dacos, but I'm also torn because, frankly, the Collingwood Football Club gave me a lot of strength this year too. And I'm looking forward to an even better year next year for both the kids and the pies. Thank you, everyone. I'm happy to take questions. This is a formal AGM, so I don't just get to talk without a response. You're more welcome to ask questions.